When you're factoring trinomials with 3 terms, you obviously always want to look at the trinomial to see if you have a greatest common factor. And then from there, you will want to follow these 2 steps. Now, the first thing we're talking about is when the leading coefficient is 1. So that means that your coefficient in front of the very first term is 1. When that happens, you will want to write out the factors of your last number. So 15, the factors of 15 are 1 and 15, 3 and 5, and none of the others go. From there, you will select the pair that adds to the middle number and multiplies to that number. So which pair would add up to 8? 3 plus 5 is 8. So to factor this, we will split up our x's, and then you have a positive 3 and a positive 5 for your factors. You can always check by foiling your 2 binomials, multiply those back together to see if you get the correct answer. So the first term in this parenthesis times the first term in this parenthesis would be x squared, 5x, 3x, and 15. And you can see that the middle here adds to 8x. So that is the correct factorization. In number 2, we look at -5. Now, I do not focus on the negative here. I think about the number as an absolute value, and I look at my factors, 1 and 5. What combination would give me a -4 in the middle? 1 minus 5 would give me -4. So my factors are +1 and -5. Factors of 45. 1 and 45. 2 does not go into 45. 3 and 15. 4 does not go. 5 and 9. 6 does not go, 7 does not go, 8 does not go, and you're back to 9. So what combination would add up to -14? Well, -5 plus a -9 would give you -14, and -5 times a -9 would indeed give you a +45. So your factors here are x minus 5 and x minus 9. Factors of 90. Remember, it's a -90. So we have 1 and 90, 2 and 45, 3 and 30, 4 doesn't go, 5 and 18, 6 does not go, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So what would add up to -1? 9 minus 10 would give me a -1. So my factors here are +9 and -10. Factors of 81. 1 and 81. And then go through. 81 divided by 2. 81 divided by 3 gives you 27. 81 divided by 4. 81 does not work. 81 divided by 5 does not work. 81 divided by 6 does not work. 81 divided by 7 does not work. 81 divided by 8 does not work. And then, of course, you know that 81 divided by 9 is 9. So what factors would add up to a -9? Well, 1 and 81 are not going to work. 3 minus 27 will give you a -24, and 9 minus 9 gives you 0. So there are no factors here that add up to a -9. So this is prime, and I'm sure you learned in Algebra 2, when you cannot factor a trinomial, what you do is we use what we call the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, I'm not sure if you had to memorize the quadratic formula or not. You do not have to necessarily memorize it for class, but you need to know that that's what you need to use. So the quadratic formula is the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And your quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. That is the standard form of a quadratic. You can see here that your a is 1, your b is -9, and your c is 81. And from there, you would plug it in to your quadratic formula. The opposite of -9 is +9. The square root of -9 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Use your calculator for underneath. -9 quantity squared minus 4 times 81 gives you -243. Over 2. So you know the square root of -243 is, because it's a negative, it's going to come out as an imaginary number. Imaginary being the square root of a negative number. It's not going to come out evenly. You can look for what your perfect squares would go into 243. You would try 4 and 9. 9 goes in 27 times. So try 18. That doesn't work. 81 will go into 243. So you have 9 plus or minus the square root of -81 times 3 over 2. You could break that down to 9 plus or minus 9i times the square root of 3 over 2. And I would just leave my answer like that. You could reduce it more if you want, but I would totally leave it like that. So you have 2 imaginary numbers there. All right, here, let's look at -44. Factors of -44. You have 1 and 44, 2 and 22. 44 divided by 3 does not go evenly, but 4 and 11. And I think you can see here that 4 minus 11 would give you -7. So your factors are +4 and -11. Now the next section in your packet, when you look at it, is factoring trinomials where your leading coefficient is not 1. So here you can see all the way down, our leading coefficient is not 1. I'm going to look at number 1. And I want to walk through these steps with you. So the first thing that we do is we multiply the first number times the last number. 3 times 2 is 6. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Select the pair that adds to the middle number. So what's going to add up to 7? 1 plus 6 will give me 7. Now what we want to do is we want to create fractions with our choice that we made and our leading coefficient. So your choice is going to be +1 over 3 and +6 over 3. Now that we have created our fractions, if you can reduce any of those fractions, then go ahead and do that. 6 plus 3 we know is 2. And then look, we slipped 3 over here in the beginning. Now we're going to slide it back. Some people call this factoring by the slip and slide method. Some call it the Texas slip and slide. There are a lot of variety of names. Factoring by slip and slide, and that will also give you lots more YouTube videos to go along with these problems. All right, let's look at the second one. We have 5x squared minus 13x plus 6. So if we slide this over, 5 times 6 gives us 30. Factors of 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. We want to select the pair that adds to the middle number. So -3 plus -10 would give me a -13 in the center. And -3, well, I don't know what happened to my little numbers here. And -3 times -10 would also give me a +30. So let's write down our factors with our choices and our leading coefficient. We're going to reduce fractions if possible. So x minus 2 here, and we can't reduce this fraction, so we slide this 5 back up. So 5x minus 3. That's our first 2 examples. Oops. Number 3, 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. We want to write down the factors of that number, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. What would add up to positive 5? Well, negative 1 plus 6 would give me a positive 5. You will say, well, 2 plus 3 would also give me a positive 5. Yes, that is true, but positive 2 times positive 3 does not give me a negative 6. And it has to add to that middle number, and it must multiply to the sign of the last number. So be very careful with that. Now we want to create fractions with our choices and our leading coefficient. Reduce fractions if possible. And for the one you cannot reduce the fraction, go ahead and slide that number back up. 4. 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. We're going to slide this 3 over. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Factors of negative 15. What would add up to negative 2? Well, we could say that 3 minus 5 would give me negative 2. So use your choices and the leading coefficient to create your fractions. And then reduce fractions. And if you can't reduce the fraction, slide the number back up. Look at number 5. 6x squared minus 17x plus 12. We're going to look, do we have a greatest common factor? We do not. 6 times 12 is going to give you 72. Factors of 72, 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 5 does not go evenly, 6 and 12, 7 does not go evenly, 8 and 9. So you're wrapped back around so you know you could stop. Now you need to come up with what combination will give you a negative 17. Negative 8 and negative 9 would give me a negative 17. And negative 8 times negative 9 does give me a positive here at the end. So I'm going to create fractions with my choices and my leading coefficient. I need to reduce my fractions. So in the first one, I'm going to divide top and bottom by 2. And then I'm going to slide this up. So I have 3x minus 4 and 2x minus 3. Number 6, 8x squared plus 33x plus 4. 8 times 4 will give you 32. Factors of 32, 1 and 32, 2 and 16. 3 does not go into 32. 4 and 8. 5 does not go into 32 evenly. 6 does not go. 7 does not go, and you're back to 8. Now you want to look at your factors. 1 plus 32 would give you 33, so this would be the pair that you would choose. Create fractions with your choice and your leading coefficient. Reduce fractions that you can. And then slide your number back up to get rid of your fractions. Now that's with factoring of trinomials.